Hey guys, it's Chris, and welcome to Toneful, the self-actualization video podcast, episode number 58, Nip It in the Bud. So this week, I wanted to take some time to talk about how when we're developing habits and we're working our way in anything we do in life, we can be creating some habits that are bad. And you've probably heard the term many times, nip it in the butt, nip it, finish it, get rid of something bad while it's early. Allow the entrance for someone to be hard, but the exit to be easy. But the point being is we want to make sure that the habits that we're bringing in are good. So the term is actually nip it in the bud, B-U-D, almost like cutting off the bud of a plant. And in many plants, when you nip the bud and you cut it there, it actually grows two stems from where there once was one. And so this is a very powerful statement because when we take the time to get rid of a habit that is bad in its very early stage, there's a two-pronged effect. We alleviate a lot of the pain that might have come from learning the habit wrong in the first place, so experiencing all the side effects that come from that, as well as having to go through the pain of learning again to redevelop the skill that was supposed to be learned the first time. So, I want to talk about it in a couple levels. Some of them starting from the personal level to global, but nipping things in the bud affects every area of our life. So first off, with habit, when we're developing habits or we have bad habits, one of the things you want to do is nip it in the bud, cut it out early. There are many things that if you do them long enough, they will become a habit that will be atrocious to get rid of. And they vary over every human sensation, and they vary over every human habit. So it's kind of crazy. Like you can be someone who is a binge eater. And when you get into the habit of binge eating, whether that is something that you use as a comfort for depression, whether that's something that you get used to, like you get used to physically feeling really full, like you like a lot of food in your body, you're like, oh, I feel good, I'm like really full. Those are things like, that's not a good habit to have. It's one thing to have a Thanksgiving dinner, right? And you eat a lot at the Thanksgiving dinner and you're enjoying all these different foods. And maybe you go to a buffet once in a while and you go, hey, on the day of the buffet, I'm going all out, right? But that's not something that's an everyday practice. Just as much so as like when we look at habits in our music practicing, some people develop this habit where they only practice a part of a song. They only practice things that they do well. They don't practice the things that are not coming as easily, or maybe not finding out how to answer the questions and being a problem solver with things that have come up that they're like, I still don't know how to do this. I've gotten a lesson on how to read this chord or how to play it, and I'm still struggling. So, when we're developing our habits, we want to be really sure that the ones that we're putting effort into and the place that we're going to be putting our energy are things that are good. So, we always want to be listening to people who have come ahead of us in anything that we're looking to be good at and listen to some of the hints of advice that they have. Again, not everything that any one person will say to us will be the bread and butter of life, so to speak. And it won't be the answer to everything, but I'm pretty sure there's a 90% generalization. If you listen to 90% of really professional guitar players, they would have a lot of similar things to say. Maybe there'd be a couple of people who have a unique or different approach, but a very large portion of them would actually be more geared towards maybe practicing with the metronome, practicing over a repertoire of music from an artist in maybe a certain fashion. Maybe they developed a method of learning music that was good for them. And that can separate the successful from people who are not as successful in any given project, hobby, or task when you're looking at it from the habits that they develop towards practice and what that's actually really bringing to the table for them. Another thing that, nipping it in the bud can be really useful for is our technique. Again, Toned and Toneful always starts from my mindset as a guitar player, but every instrument has a certain technique and has a certain movement to it that physically needs to happen in order for it to have sound be made. Now, maybe some instruments don't require that, like, a MIDI instrument, but really you're getting my point that when we're physically using an instrument, if we use the wrong technique, we can actually hurt ourselves. We can actually cause pain to the point that we need surgery, or damage parts of our body to the point that they no longer work the same. I've seen a lot of instrumentalists of different instruments end up in places that they didn't belong because they didn't take care of their technique and make sure that the way that the instrument is used physically, they made sense for their body. And you want to nip this in the bud. If you notice a little bit of pain when you do something, or you notice something is off, as a human being, one of the things that we are very much blessed with is this ability to be like, that's weird. And sometimes it's weird from being naive. Sometimes it's weird from not having enough knowledge. But there's also, it's weird because you just know it's weird. You're like, hey, I just don't feel like this is right. You need to address that. You need to take that feeling and go with it and find out why that feeling is so strong, because you want to be able to see why you are feeling off. This could save you. Again, this two-pronged effect that happens when we do nip things in the bud is, one, we alleviate the pain of going through the side effects of doing something wrong. And number two, we also don't have to go through the pain of relearning it again and changing our focus on how we felt about maybe something we've been doing, and now our habit has to really be different. That's hard. That's really hard. Another place where we can nip the bud and really make some great gains is in our personality. Sometimes we are going through life and we are expressing ourselves, and we sometimes don't really think about some little things that we've been doing that we know that we want to work on. We know that drive people away from us. Say if you're a musician showing up to an audition and you overplay every time. If you notice that you're overplaying and you're getting a strong reaction from maybe the band you're auditioning for, that everyone seems uncomfortable or everyone seems off. If you are showing up to a rehearsal and you're being really quiet and standoffish, and you're noticing that that's not producing good results for you, you want to recognize that. We do these projects, we do art, and we do things to not only express ourselves, which I hope is something that you are doing with this. That's one of the first things I'd hope you're doing. But one of the things that also comes along with that is actually working in groups and working with other artists, and being able to have the right kind of personality. No matter what project you worked on, this that could even be in software, you would want to be the kind of person who would recognize when your personality has something that's distasteful to a group. And that doesn't mean changing who you are. I think a lot of people, when they want to make an alteration to their personality, they now feel that they're this fake person. Can I tell you something? If you want to take it from the mindset that there's something real and fake about personalities or life, or, I get it. There are some people who will manipulate a lot of situations to make certain things seem true, gaslight people, blah, 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 to get what they want, whether that's manipulating them, abusing them, whatever method of. But what we're talking about is when we're looking to be more harmonious with a group of people, that doesn't mean you're becoming a fake person. You're not becoming a fake person to spend some time with people and put aside some of your very unique, intricate parts of your personality and behaviors to spend a little time with somebody. You know what I'm saying? And so if you can see that that is something that could be affecting you, it's a very strong tool and will honestly, I think, bring a lot more success in your musical relationships than even being a more talented player can be at times. Working with people who can't read the room and working with people who can't make adjustments. Hey, maybe you show up at the first practice and you practice 1 hour per day and you can tell, I don't sound as good as I'm supposed to sound, everyone else sounds better, then as a person who can nip something in the bud, maybe you're going to go, okay, instead of, playing guitar for 1 hour, then immediately going to 3 hours of video games, maybe it needs to be 3 hours of guitar and 1 hour of video games if I want to achieve my goals in the way that I want to see them, right? So this is something that we need to be thinking about. We need to be nipping in the bud the things that are not helping us and noticing with the skills that we've developed from the earlier Toned and Toneful episodes. I'm being playful. But the things that we've learned earlier, if we're utilizing those skills, we really can be nipping bad habits in the bud. And on a global perspective, nipping habits in the bud is really important because they allow for your whole life to function easier, because the more that you have in your life in different sections, like almost like, how cancer is really just a not copied cell correctly, and then that cell copies incorrectly and creates a cancerous, cluster of cells which form a tumor eventually. Well, in the same way, like if we're full of bad habits and they're appearing in different places in our life, we have bad technique and we're having elbow problems, and then we already had a little bit of problems with practicing because we're having a problem with focus and we haven't nipped it in the bud that maybe I shouldn't be playing video games all those hours a night. So you add in the fact that your elbow hurts, and then you add in the fact that you haven't been really able to make a great practice routine. And now it's really hard to be successful on guitar because you're in a position where your arm actually physically hurts, which is something that needs to be addressed and something that needs to be dealt with. And obviously the technique hasn't been nipped in the bud. So we now have something that's hurting us in the way that we're playing. And to even top it off even more, we already had a hard time practicing. So now you look at these two combined variables, and we have someone who has a real hard time practicing, and also they're dealing with pain while they're practicing, which is not a very comfortable situation and would allow the part of the brain that says, hey, you know what, I'd rather just be doing something else, or I'd rather just chill, or I think I've practiced enough. That part of the brain will easier take over in a person with that personality and set of habits. And then you can even throw in one more, like they have a personality habit problem where they don't take feedback well. So maybe they show up at a practice and now someone goes, hey, like you need to practice more. And then they start crying at the practice and talking about how their elbow's hurting, and they're making like a dramatic scene. And now it's like a coping mechanism that is now affecting other people. So this is this is a very small example. I could come up again with a million examples, but this is a global perspective of how when we don't nip things in the bud, how they can become our worst enemy. And it's harder to do it when we do not take the initiative to change things that are bad in the first place. A lot of times they come from wanting to be quicker with something, thinking that we have a smarter idea than doing it the right way. But there is a certain great trait to people who want to do things the right way and want to find good ways of maybe enhancing that timing on how something is done, or enhancing the efficiency that something is done, but at the same time doing things correctly, making sure that we're keeping our health, our happiness, and our relationships in tow so we can enjoy our projects that we're trying to do. We want to share our gains with people. We want to have our song come out and be able to share that with our friends by having good relationships and having a good communication style and being a person who's full of good habits. You know what I'm saying? That's something that really does attract other people when they see people full of great habits. But anyway, I appreciate you guys sticking with me for episode number 58 of the Toned and Toned full video podcast. And you guys are always amazing because everything is about self-actualization. So those who watch this show, this is for those who want to find more within their own, soul, their body, their spirit, their, musical connection to their spirit body. All those things are something that we're always trying to do at Toned and Toneful. So remember, guys, if this affected you in a positive way, tell somebody, tell a friend, show them this channel. this is why I do it. I don't do it. There's nothing other than seeing you guys grow with me and just having a great place that I get to talk to really other intelligent human beings about the experience of living the artistic process and growing through it physically, mentally, and spiritually. So you guys are amazing. Thanks again for episode 58 staying with me. If you made it to this point, type Tippy Toe. Tippy Toe, Tippy space TOE, Tippy Toe. And yeah, you guys are amazing. So remember, have a great week. Keep thinking about the things that you can nip in the bud, some habits you see starting, and maybe some that are already there that you go, I'm going to prune this bush now. I'm going to prune this bad habit out and nip the small ones in the bud. But you guys have been amazing. And once again, you guys just remember to stay toned and toneful.